Hello there, I'm Dan Armstrong, and I've just been sharing about my calling as a Christian and what took place after I first gave my life to Christ. I didn't realise when I first became a Christian what the gifts of the Spirit were. And it wasn't until some little while after I became a Christian and I was sharing my faith with a lot of people and in a lot of circumstances. And I was seeing people coming to Christ. And I remember one person saying to me, Dan, what you're doing is fairly unusual as a Christian. I said, well, what do you mean? They said that every time you talk or give a Christian talk or you preach, you always end up calling people to give their lives to Jesus. And I said, and they said, and people do that. And I said, well, isn't what it's all about? He said, well, it is, but I believe that God has given you the gift of an evangelist. He said, we're all called upon to evangelize, but I believe God's given you the gift of an evangelist, and therefore I believe you should put yourself into the situation where that can operate. And so I did. Through a series of events I know engineered and guided by God, I became the evangelist for the Methodist Church, and I was that for a number of years. But I also came to realise that that's true, and I did have that calling, and it is a special calling. But I came to realise also that so many Christians miss out on what is the greatest blessing that they can ever have, and that is to be in that place of sharing Jesus with other people. And I came to realise that not everyone is called to be an evangelist, but everyone is called to evangelize. Everyone is called to share their faith. That's what the fifth gospel is. You letting your life be in such a situation that Jesus can reach through you and touch other people's lives. And that this then becomes the calling that's to every one of us. Now, we're not all called to be evangelists. We're not all called to be preachers and teachers, but we all are called to share our faith with others. And so part of then became my ministry, my calling, not only to evangelize, but to encourage others to share their faith with others. And I've been able to see people set free from their fears of man and fears of failing, to be able to just share their faith, because the way that I seek to encourage them is for them to understand that they have a faith chain. And the faith chain operates like this, and I've got it written. It's here in John in chapter 17. Jesus is praying to the Father, and he's praying for the disciples that are gathered around him. And it's not long before the crucifixion. And he's praying to the Father for these disciples, for what was going to be happening in their lives. And he prays about the disciples and said to the Father, as you sent me into the world, I've sent them into the world. And for them I sanctify myself, that they too may be truly sanctified. And then he says this to the Father, my prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. And when he said this, he sealed within these disciples the message that they were going to give and to share. And as they shared this, people came to Jesus. And as they came to Jesus, they then shared with others, who then shared with others, who shared then with others. I remember when I first laid hold of this understanding, I thought to myself, one of those disciples, one of them is my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather in the Lord. Because one of those disciples faithfully shared the good news to someone else, who then faithfully shared the good news, who then faithfully shared the good news down to that precious man who shared the good news with me. And because of him and his faithfulness, I know Jesus. That's my faith chain. And now because of that, since then there's others who've come to know Jesus too. And I have joyfully been able to tell you this. I've met some of those people later who've said to me, I've kept on and I've told Jesus to others. That's the faith chain. And when you come to understand that you're a Christian now because someone faithfully shared the good news with you, who had been faithfully shared the good news with someone else, that'll give you a heart to share with others. Lay hold of your faith chain. And I would say to them, get hold of their faith chain. And when you do, you will want other people to know. Now, you may not be a great orator. You may not have great understanding of the Scripture, but you'll have within your heart the understanding that you have been born of the Spirit of God because someone let you know. It was through their message. This is what belongs to every one of us. And this is why I yearn for people to understand the Great Commission and to recognise and realise that though they may not be evangelists, they may not be preachers, they can be sharers. They can have a faith chain to let other people know about. You've got a faith chain. I want you to think about your faith chain. Whoever or individually or even corporately, people, let you know about Jesus so that you now can say, I long and I belong to the one who saved the universe. I'm his because someone else shared Jesus with me. What a privilege is ours.